Welcome to the second video in the SIS Global Preferential Procurement process. In the previous video, I've covered how to configure and set up the system for preferential procurement, and in this video, we cover the completion of new or reissued certificates. I have already created a vendor and will use a sample certificate as a reference point. To add our BEE details, we click on the Procurement tab and select Preferential Procurement. To add a new line, we click the Add New button. As you can see, the first two fields are the certificate issue date as well as the certificate expiry date. On our vendor certificate, we have an issue date of the 17th of November 2016 and an expiry date of the 16th of November 2017. So we'll go back to our system and add those dates. Certificate verified. This field aims to confirm if the certificate is valid. Only certificates issued by SIS accredited verification Cs are deemed valid. So you want to ensure that the vendor certificate has the SIS accreditation logo. If we refer to our sample certificate, this is what the logo would look like. So we can go ahead and tick that box. The certificate number is a unique set of numbers allocated to the vendor certificate for means of identification by the verification agency. Here you can see we have a certificate number. However, for this example, I'm going to use a generic number. Level refers to the recognition level achieved by the vendor. And as you can see on our sample certificate, they've managed to achieve a level 3 contributor status. Our next field is empowering supplier. According to the amended codes of good practice, there's a series of requirements that must be met in order to achieve this status. Luckily, we do not have to review these requirements, as this is also indicated on our vendor certificate. And here you can see they are an empowering supplier, so we can check this box. The next two requirements are more than 51% black owned and more than 30% black woman owned. And if we refer to our certificate, you can see that they are neither 51% black owned nor 30% black women owned. So we can leave these two fields blank. Supply development beneficiary with a 3-year contract. Usually if the vendor is a supplier development beneficiary, this would be indicated on our vendor certificate. In this case, it is not stated on the certificate as this entity is a generic company, and only an entity that is either an EME or QSE can qualify for this. So we'll leave this blank. Graduated enterprise development. This refers to an enterprise that receives an aid from the measured entity and then becomes part of the measured entity supply chain. This also has to be either an EME or QSE entity, so as previously done, we'll leave this blank. The exclude field is used to mark all vendors that form part of the excluded procurement spend, which would be spend such as imports or intercompany spend. Once this field is ticked, you can go ahead and elaborate in the next field with the reason code. However, for this example, I'm going to include the expenses. Designated group percentage. The designated group information can be found on the vendor certificate, and in this case, if we refer to our sample certificate, you can see that the entity is not a designated group supplier. So we leave this field blank as well. Entity size, if we refer to our sample certificate, you can see that this is a generic company. So I'll go ahead and change that. EME or QSE with a 3-year contract. We know that our vendor is generic and therefore does not qualify, so we leave this field blank as well. First-time supplier. This refers to an enterprise that has traded with the measured entity for the first time. However, the entity must be either an EME or QSE to qualify for this recognition. Beneficiary type refers to either a supplier development beneficiary or an enterprise development beneficiary. But seeing as our vendor is neither an EME or QSE, it does not qualify for either of these. So we'll leave this as none. And as you can see, this further elaborates enterprise or supply development. We can go ahead and leave this blank as well, seeing as our entity is generic and does not qualify. Jobs created. In the case where the vendor is either an EME or QSE and also an ESD beneficiary that has been able to create employment opportunities within their company due to contributions received by the measured entity, you can enter the number of jobs created as a result of those contributions in this field. But seeing as our entity is generic and does not qualify for either supplier development beneficiaries or enterprise development contributions, we leave this field blank. Once this has been done, we can click Save